So this is Knights of Columbus. Became a member a couple years ago, and I go between churches. I go to my church, the Catholic one. But look, I just want to say that people that talk ill about Catholic priests, they have to understand that there's been a lot of ill shit said, and you have to remember that talk is always cheap when the story is good, right? So a story like priest molesting children, that's a story that's a good story, because people get angry and they tell it because they feel hurt, like as if it was God's hand that screwed them or something, and it wasn't. It was humans. It was the fact that they're stuffed into carnal bodies, right? And I recently told a couple of my friends about this. One of them was a Catholic. He told me how he felt bad when he does certain things, and how he didn't receive his Eucharist because he didn't make it to confession, and some things get to him. And I said, dude, the fact that you realize that you're aware of it, that's huge. And I related that to old tale of a book called a movie, Pinocchio. And I was like, listen, people look at this as if this Pinocchio was this lion piece of crap, right? Labels can get placed places anywhere. Talk is cheap when the story's good, right? Pinocchio was one of the most honest characters ever, I told him, in literature, human literature. As far as like that type of literature, most honest, because he was aware and he felt bad and he wanted to be something better. He wanted to be real, just like I suppose you and me and most people want to be light. We want to be creatures of light and soul. We want to be the breath and the I am that's in us. We won't want to be carnal creatures that we realize after we peak, we get through our youth, our bodies get a little different. We start to, character traits have been changing, behaviors, things. We get to a certain level and we realize, like, living in the body, the flesh is not who we believe we are. Our consciousness and our soul is something else. That's like we're striving, like Pinocchio, to be something more. And when you sin and you did something wrong, whether it's a desire of the flesh, an emotion, a way you acted, you are aware of it. Pinocchio was aware of it. His nose would grow big. He would feel bad when he did the wrong thing because he was aware of it, right? Well, my friend's a Catholic, and I was thinking about that, and I just was reading my magazine that came in this month, and look, I want to say, these Catholic priests right here, these three men, they were on the Titanic, and they refused to board. Imagine the Titanic when it was mayhem. Just imagine, if you're from Rhode Island, the fire, people fighting to get out of that fire, the people that died in the fire 21 years ago in Warwick. What's Warwick? The nightclub fire. Look at, man, sheer terror. And so this is happening on the Titanic. The last hour, these men, they refused to get on the lifeboats, and they actually did amazing, remarkable things. These were reports from survivors that seen one of them getting up above on all these men doomed to die, leading them into prayer, absolution, leading these men into, their time to face God, right? Their time to face God and how they go out. It's a fucking amazing story, right? Let me tell you something, man. Another passenger on the board. Wait, let's go. Saving lives and souls. Later that night, as word spread, the ship struck an iceberg. Father Biles and parachutes descended below the decks to steerage. Fear was descending into suffocating panic. The priest quickly realized saving souls was even more important than saving lives. Perhaps they too sensed that God had been preparing them for this moment. Compared to the other priests, little is known of Father Montvilla's movements that night. Reports simply state the young Lithuanian priest Joas Montvilla served his calling to the very end. And there are witness accounts of Father Biles and Father Pershwitz, though, and the picture that emerges is remarkable. An eyewitness later told America Magazine, when all the excitement became fearful, all the Catholics on board desired the assistance of priests with the greatest fervor. Both priests aroused those condemned to die to say acts of contrition and prepare themselves to meet the face of God. Then the priests began to organize the evacuation of women and children, escorting them upward through various decks while leading the rosary and giving general absolution. Witnesses later reported the dominant characteristic of Father Biles was his presence of mind. Everyone is human, right? We all strive to be good, bad, whatever the hell we strive for. We are crooked timber, we're a mixture of good and bad. These men, they definitely, they pushed it to the limit. They denied going on those lifeboats. Oh, it was great. Okay, hold on. So, one moment. Where I was Father Boyle's. The dominant characteristic of Father Biles was his presence of mind. Bertha Moran, an Irish immigrant worker, a garment worker, traveling third class, would tell the Evening World, continuing the prayers, he led us to where the boats were being lowered, helping the women and children, and he whispered to them words of comfort and encouragement. Seeing the first batch of women and children safely aboard lifeboats, he declined an offer to join them. Another young Irish woman, Ellen Mockler, would later say, after I got in the boat, which was the last one to leave, and we were slowly going further away from the ship, I could hear distinctly the voice of the priest and the response to his prayers. Then they became fainter and fainter until I could only hear the strains of the hymn, Nearer, my God, to Thee, and the screams of the people left behind. We're told by the men who rowed our boat that we were mistaken as to the screams and that it was the people singing, but we knew otherwise. Another passenger on the last lifeboat, Charlotte Coiler, told reporters on the boat deck that I had just left. Perhaps 50 men had come together. In the midst of them was a tall figure who climbed up upon a chair or a coil of rope, so he was raised far above the rest. His hands were stretched out as if he was pronouncing a blessing. Father Biles stood there, leading those doomed men in prayer. The ship finally sank at about 2:20 a.m., its stern rising high in the air before plunging into the freezing waters of the North Atlantic. None of the three priests was seen again. All had been offered places on the lifeboats. All had declined. Reading accounts of these events, it is easy to assume or hope that one would also act with such integrity. Yet it is important to recall that in the ship's last hour, the mood on the board the Titanic became one of sheer terror. It is in this context that the witnesses of Father Biles, Pershwitz, and Montvilla needs to be pondered. The moment it became clear that the ship was doomed and there was not enough lifeboats for all the passengers, called for more than the courage of a hero. It called for the courage of a martyr. Nearer, my God, to Thee, nearer to Thee. E'en though it be a cross that raiseth me, still all my song shall be nearer, my God, to Thee. That's just some deep shit, man. I'm glad I took the time to read this. Sometimes I don't read my magazines. I have a lot of problems with myself and my focus. If I was only able to focus, I could change the world, change my world, change yours. I could do something greater, and so it's like just reading these things and being a part of my daily life can be impactful, and I come to appreciate that. I'm glad that it came in, but this is amazing, man. Here we have the three priests. Father Thomas Biles, Benedict Father Joseph Benedict Pershwitz, and Father Joaz Montvilla. These men they became like creatures of light, and they descended to a dimension that is above us, that we here in the flesh carnal world can only dream of. Perhaps we are in hell, who knows, who knows. Yeah, there's a lot to think about there. So for everyone that has a lot to say about Catholics and this and that, just think about humanity, because the seat of power, anyone in the seat of power can be corrupt. They're still sitting on their derrieres and their asses, and ain't no one, nothing more than human. But the problem is we don't realize what humans are. We have potential to be what God wanted us to be by placing Him inside of us. He placed His light in us. That's why our I am is in us. It's different. This is what I think or feel is the secret Jesus was only able to tell the disciples, and I think they even did tell many people, just didn't try to push it, I'm guessing. But us humans, man, we can be good and bad and left and right and sideways, man, and the best can come from the worst and the worst from the best. And yeah, man, it's just a fucking crazy world that we live in. But so understand, Catholic, this, that, they're human and they do human things, and you just need to think about whatever those priests that couldn't control themselves did, or maybe ask yourself why they even became priests and ended up doing that. Who knows? But think about the fact that there have been amazingly heroic martyrs, people that deserve heaven, just like these three priests. Well, that's true humanity. It's like, that's amazing, man. Have a good night. I think it's Sunday, May 19th, 2024. It's 11:02 p.m. Have a good night.